Hi everyone, I'm Dan Abrams, and this is Court Canvas.
Take him back! Take him out! I hope you die in person as well.
First, we go to the Veterans Memorial Courthouse in Lansing, Michigan, for the trial of 35-year-old Joshua Harding, who's been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. There's Harding. 2 prosecutors represent the state, including Jonathan Roth, who, prior to sentencing, asked the court to consider a sentence on the higher end of the guidelines. At the far end of the table is Detective Brian Kanan, the lead investigator in the case against Harding. The jury's reached a decision in one of the cases and is about to read its verdict. In under 8 seconds, so much has happened. Let's look at it again. If you look a little closer, you can see Harding remove something from inside his sleeve. Turns out Harding is holding a metal shank. Harding storms the prosecutor's table, headed straight for Assistant DA Roth. If not for the quick reflexes of Detective Kanan, Roth could have sustained serious injuries. 2 court deputies immediately take action to help bring Harding, who stands 6'6" and weighs 280, to the ground. Watch as Roth removes his glasses to take a step towards the scrum. A spectator points something out to Roth. It's the shank. Meanwhile, Kanan and the 2 bailiffs are still wrestling with Harding. It took about 30 seconds to eventually cuff and remove the defendant from the courtroom. This brazen attack brought Harding an additional charge of assault with intent to murder, to which he pled guilty. As for the original charges, Harding was found guilty of second-degree criminal sexual conduct and is now serving a combined sentence of 44 years at a state prison. The earliest he could be released is the year 2064. Authorities are unsure how Harding got the weapon into the courthouse. Because Harding was in police custody during the trial, he did not have to pass through a metal detector upon entering the courthouse. He also was not required to wear handcuffs.
We're in the lead presiding today over the bond hearings.
Today, she'll see dozens of defendants.
You were arrested for retail theft, and I'll appoint the public defender for you.
But one in particular is sure to stand out. The defendant is Sherry Lynn, who's facing charges of felony battery and resisting arrest with violence. Lynn appears remotely and is represented by a public defender. And from the very first question,
Have you ever been treated for any mental health issues?
Why don't you yourself first?
it's clear Lynn is in no mood to be in court.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Because go yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a little busy right now.
Take another look.
Because go yourself.
Judge Glazer initially finds the behavior amusing, but she's not about to let it continue.
Ma'am, I'm just trying to help.
Ma'am, he's trying to help you. And please don't use profanity or try and disrupt my courtroom because I don't want to be forced to hold you contempt of court. All right, he's trying to, Mr. Sanders, trying to help you. And I'm ordering that you stay away from Cynthia Cuba. Do not have any contact with her. You must stay away from her home and place of business. As to the other case,
Who the is Cynthia Cuba? Tell me.
I
What
think
the
you allegedly tried to hit with the pliers. The other case, F-51
Right from
the bond is $5,000. It's $5,000 and count 3 is $1,000. Have a nice day, ma'am. Let's try and get you to the hospital.
Lynn's ordered to pay a $50 fine and undergo a psychiatric evaluation.
My name is James Casey, and I remember I was looking up at him, and he kept saying, Casey, Casey, and I remember he told me that I had been shot.
Our next stop is inside the holding facility of the Chandler Municipal Court in Chandler, Arizona. Detention officers have come to remove 23-year-old Kevin Lyons to bring him before a judge. Lyons had been arrested in Chandler on a warrant for driving under the influence. It's also important to note that Lyons is handcuffed in the front. In court documents, he later claimed officers offered to remove the cuffs, but he refused, stating he kept them on for a reason. When the male officer tries to nudge him along, he chooses not to cooperate. Two officers try to subdue Lyons, but he refuses to let up. Lyons loses a boot, but continues fighting and kicking, and he lands a shot that knocks. And now, if you watch closely, this is where the handcuffs and Lyons' reason for keeping them on come into play. If you look at that again, you can see Lyons manages to slip his cuffs around the male officer's neck, putting him in a potentially deadly stranglehold. It's been over 20 seconds and time is running out. But the officer continues to fight. Eventually, he manages to slip out of Lyons' grip and turn the tables. While escaping from Lyons' chokehold, the male officer suffered a cut to his face and on the back of his ear. A third officer enters to assist, and they begin the very careful process of repositioning Lyons' cuffs behind his back.
Here's what's gonna happen next, okay? Tell me. You're gonna go to the hospital if you resist any, okay?
I know, I already know.
Okay.
I've done it before. You know, Mama, you see my record. Well, I hope you don't see it.
Court documents show Lyons was previously convicted of assaulting officers. So this time, they make absolutely sure they've secured the cuffs behind his back.
They're done. Right here. We're good.
Lyons may be contained, but that doesn't mean he's going to go quietly.
Okay, you know me. That's what it is.
Lyons is led back to his cell, where he continues to mouth off at the male officer.
I didn't do to him. Once I grabbed my wrist and started giving me recording, everything on cash in.
Lyons is booked into Maricopa County Jail and now faces 2 additional aggravated assault charges against a correction officer. Our next stop is the Warren County Common Pleas Court in Lebanon, Ohio, for a case that riveted many around the nation. Today, all eyes are focused on this packed courtroom, because in just a few moments, a jury will decide the fate of Brooke Skylar Richardson, a young mother accused of killing her newborn baby. Just 2 years earlier, the then 18-year-old high school senior gave birth to a little girl at home one night and didn't tell anyone. She managed to keep her pregnancy a secret because she suffered from an eating disorder and only gained 15 pounds. And Richardson apparently wasn't sure the baby and buried her. 2 months later, Richardson's OBGYN told police she confessed to him that she killed the baby. Authorities dug up the remains of Annabelle, and the high school cheerleader is hauled in for questioning by police.
Is it possible that she maybe breathed a little bit? Do you think it was too tight? You said I think maybe I held her too tight. Tell me what that means.
I just think she was breathing a too hard.
Okay.
But it was so
I know. It's okay. It's okay. You can't. It's okay. You were trying.
I think I want to kill her.
Okay. Okay.
I think I killed her on purpose. I'm going to jail.
In a moment that will change her life forever, she seemingly confesses to detectives. Richardson's arrested and charged with a number of counts, including aggravated murder and involuntary manslaughter. It's a sensational trial that made headlines across the country. On social media, Richardson and her family were vilified. They even received death threats. Finally, more than 2 years after that tragic night,
Maybe see it.
Brooke Schuyler Richardson is about to learn her fate.
Ma'am, has the jury reached a verdict in the case?
We have.
If she's found guilty, she could go to prison for the rest of her life.
I firmly believe, Miss Richardson, you would have made different decisions, Annabelle would be here today.
We're back in Lebanon, Ohio, and a jury's about to determine the fate of Brooke Schuyler Richardson, accused of killing her newborn baby.
Will the defendant please rise? With regard to count one, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Schuyler Richardson, not guilty of the offense of aggravated murder, not guilty of the offense of involuntary manslaughter. Count three, child endangerment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Brooke Schuyler Richardson, not guilty of child endangerment. Verdict for number four, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Schuyler Richardson, guilty of the offense of abuse of a corpse. Ladies and gentlemen, are those the verdicts of the jury?
Yes, sir.
You may be seated.
Richardson is only found guilty on one lesser count.
I'm going to set this matter for sentencing tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
But the next day, before she's sentenced, Judge Donald Oda lost.
The jury found that the state did not prove that you were guilty of killing your baby. But I think what often gets overlooked, Ms. Richardson, is just how precious life is. I firmly believe, Ms. Richardson, in fact, I know in my heart that if you would have made different decisions in this case, Annabelle would be here today. And I know that might be difficult for you to hear, but I think that your choices before birth, during birth, and after show a grotesque disregard for life.
And with that, Judge Oda informs Richardson of her sentence.
I'm going to place you on 3 years of basic supervision. I'm going to order as a term of your community control that you spend 7 days in the county jail. I'm going to credit you the 7 days that you have already done, which means that you are going to be going home today.
Richardson's long ordeal finally concludes with her being placed on 3 years probation. We take you to Dover, New Hampshire, where Christopher Elwell was just sentenced for sexually assaulting a 4-year-old girl. This was Elwell's second conviction for molesting a child.
They described him showing them videos of sexual acts similar to the ones that she had done.
At first, Elwell denied the attack, but would eventually admit it to the court.
To that charge, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
His sentence? 7.5 to 15 years in prison. He heads towards the back of the court to sit and wait, as there are other cases on the docket today. The man who just delivered that blow is Josiah Davies, who is awaiting arraignment on a probation violation. Davies heard every lurid detail from Elwell's case and decided to send a message. Since both men are shackled, Davies used the only weapon available. The two defendants had no prior history, and Elwell suffered no serious injuries in the attack. Davies, however, pled guilty to assaulting a prisoner and, on an unrelated offense, pled guilty to forgery. He was sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years in prison. The earliest Elwell can be released is October 2024.
I remember just staring at the ground, and I was just putting people's heads, their pictures in my head, I was thinking of my wife. I was like, if I go down and go out again.
For the murder trial of alleged gang member Ramon Bueno. Bueno's charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault, along with the attempted murder of a police officer. The officer?
James, could you introduce yourself to the jury?
Dude, my name is James Casey. I'm a retired Arizona Department of Public Safety state trooper.
Is that right?
Casey, just 5 years earlier, pulled over Bueno and some friends for heavily tinted windows, a violation in Arizona, when Bueno allegedly pulled out a gun and shot Casey in the face.
I want you to tell us about what happened that night, how we got to where we are today.
I said, your social security number. I said, we have your social security number. I'll run you that way. And so he said 6. And then he said, when he said 6, I started to lean in because it sounded like he was giving me something. And he said 0. And I heard 0. And the next thing I heard was an explosion.
Tell us what you remember happening next.
I remember Ray, our trooper Cruz, Ray, I saw him, I remember him straddling me, and I remember I was looking up at him, and he kept saying, Casey, Casey. He's like, you okay? And I remember he told me that I had been shot, and I was making a mental note, so what I was doing is, I remember I was just staring at the ground, and I was just putting people's heads, their pictures in my head. I was thinking of my wife, I was naming her name, my mom, and I was saying, Mom. I'd see a picture of my dad, I'd say, Dad, my brother, I'd say, Tim, I was just trying not to, I was just trying to think. I was like, if I go down and go out, I'm dead. I will never wake up.
The following pictures you're about to see are graphic. It'll be hard to look at for some viewers. Trooper Casey tells the jury how he suffered through a total of 17 surgeries and medical procedures, including having his nose and parts of his face reconstructed, and how he has to live the rest of his life with bullet fragments in his head.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bueno.
Good afternoon.
We do have verdicts. We'll bring in the jury, please. All rise for the jury.
At the conclusion of the trial, jurors deadlocked on the attempted murder charge, but Ramon Bueno is found guilty of 7 of the 8 remaining charges and sentenced to over 85 years in prison. Joining us now is Trooper James Casey. Trooper James Casey, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. What was it like for you to have to relive that moment again in such detail?
That's a good question. And I have to tell you, I got up there and testified, and he was talking about having to basically take pieces of my mouth, my bones, my teeth out of my throat so I could start breathing. I had never heard that before, and I was basically doing, as they call it, the death rattle. I was just basically drowning in my own blood. That's stuff I'd never heard before, so it was tough to listen to.
Were you angry? Were you frustrated?
I would say a little bit of everything. I was angry that he's afflicted me with lifelong conditions. And then just mad it took so long. 5 years is a long time.
How'd you feel when the verdict came in?
Well, the hung jury on my attempted murder, I was shocked, but the shooting, the aggravated assault on law enforcement, I was happy for.
By all accounts, it is a miracle that you are here today. But is it fair to say that you are not fully recovered?
No, I don't think I ever will be. Since I've been back, I've had 2 mini strokes. And I still have bullet fragments in my head. I still have next to the arteries, so I can never have an MRI again. So that's always the neurologist that I've dealt with over the last few years. They're very concerned about that. I have trouble breathing. I have a denture plate. It's just been tough. It's hard. But I battled through it.
Trooper James Casey, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it also.
I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching.